Hey, it's Kevin with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, I am going to be joined by Darren Brannon, and he is the CEO at Terminal Industries. And we are going to be talking all about the yard, what the yard is like today, and what the yard will look like in the future, because Terminal Industries is very much focused on the future of the yard and making you realize and recognize the opportunities that lie within that space between the transportation and the warehouse side of your supply chain. And Darren's going to dig into that with us, and we're going to learn about how they're using technology to address some of that and capture some data and information in that in between, and make it a little better and take advantage and create opportunity for you in your operations and your business as a whole. So Darren, welcome to the show. How are you?
Excellent, Kevin. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely excited to get you on, and definitely, very excited. You just told me before we started recording that you're going to be talking to some senators today, right after this recording. So I'm feeling honored to be the warm up for that.
Yeah, it turns out not only the commercial sector, but the government sector has yard logistics challenges. And so I think we're pitching each other to see if we can help there too.
All right, exciting stuff, and
Exciting day.
everybody's got a yard. It sounds like so we're gonna dig into that today and talk about kind of what lies within the yard there. But for people that maybe have not heard of Terminal Industries yet, why don't you kind of just give us a brief overview of what Terminal Industries is, and also how it kind of came about as well, because I think it's a kind of an interesting founding story.
Certainly, and it might help just to frame a little perspective because my background is unique in that I'm 25 years, not in logistics, but
Mm-hmm.
25 years in the Silicon Valley tech industry, and the first third of that part of my career was in the venture business. And I learned the entrepreneurial ropes and jumped across the table a while ago. This is my fifth company, Terminal is, and prior companies were largely focused on B2B, mid to enterprise, also a heavy platform plus applications and services model. So Terminal, I was attracted to it for many reasons, but Terminal's mission today is to make goods flow better, faster, cheaper, and cleaner now every single day. And we provide the industry's leading yard automation platform powered by CV and AI for major commercial logistics companies. And the platform generally digitizes and automates the gate operations. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the check in, check out. And then we provide real time visibility, transparency of transport assets throughout the yard. If we do this right, we're digitizing the yard, we're optimizing it, and we're setting up for full autonomous yard, or to be on that path of the autonomous yard of the future,
Mm-hmm.
which ultimately I think many prospects, customers like to hear about all that tech, but really they want to see, what's the time to value? How soon can you improve efficiency, cost, visibility, audibility, and throughput? Throughput's probably the most important
Yeah, absolutely, and I think very
So that's
sure. Oh, continue.
and you asked how it came about. I think the genesis of this business is unique as well. I've been here for a little over a year now, and what attracted me to this business is not only kind of my venture tech background, looking for markets that have some lack of I'd say adoption or dislocation, but industries first and foremost that are large, growing, and underserved. And in this sector, when I looked at this sector, I just felt it was ripe for
Mm-hmm.
reinvention. And and before I start any company, I typically tend to spend a lot of time on that underserved parts, and that sort of why now, why
Mm-hmm.
us, why is the market so underserved, and do I have a good shot at driving that transformation? What I found is that although the yard, I think, is probably the most under modernized
Mm-hmm.
node in the supply
Sure.
chain. It's causing all kinds of challenges from congestion to extra time locating assets and resources, scheduling delays, and so on. And by the way, that causes, you probably know this, 60% utilization of trucks over the road versus 80 or 90. So about six hours versus 11 hours is caused by that last mile which tends to be in the yard. And so despite all these challenges, you still have these 50-year-old processes, 20-year-old tech, and less than 25% of the yards have adopted tech and automation, while the warehouse is in the 80-85%, the transport's in the 60%. So why has this market had massive adoption problems, and what can we do to change the mindset and the transformation? And is it a combination of change management or new tech? And what we found, and this overall industry is massive, the macro perspective, 2.6 trillion. And I think the latest numbers, also what attracted me, is 15% of the 2.6 trillion, it's over 200 billion, is waste. And half of that waste comes from the yards. There's 55,000 yards out there, 50 billion a year goods moving through, or a day, not a year, running through the yards, and just again underinvested, and old tech, old processes. And so we thought, how can we digitize? How can we optimize that? What are the main reasons that these things are happening? What we found is that the vendors that have tried to attack this market were either underfunded, and they kind of came at it with 1.0, old cold, old tech, and now you have a kind of a patchwork of point solutions in the market. And then we also found that the yard, part of the reason that the tech wasn't fitting well is the yard. No single yard is similar to another, so it's highly complex, a lot of variable moving parts, requires SaaS to be more configurable than it's capable of. And so that was kind of the second thing we found. And then third, lastly, was that they just didn't have that cost benefit ROI mindset when selling to mid to large enterprises. So most vendors unknowingly were overpriced. And so when we thought about, well, how can we come together and solve this problem, and devise a 3.0 level smart yard technology? And one of the reasons I'm here is that computer vision AI is at a point where we could advance it further with the right investment, right team. And so that's the kind of a long answer to that question: is how did the company come about? What's the genesis of the business? And it was formed with 8VC. 8VC is one of the most prolific supply chain investors, and they teamed up with their strategic investors, Ryder, NFI, Prologis, and they came together with a hope to solve this cluster of pain points in the yard. And that's when Terminal was founded. And they focused on the computer vision and AI, and then I came in to help build the company from there. And the idea is, we're building a yard operating system that brings real-time visibility, automates workflows, ultimately becomes that control plane that connects the transportation warehouse and the emerging autonomy. And I think if you do this right, you'll have scalable, sustainable tech that looks more like what you have in the warehouse.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very interesting to hear how it kind of came together, right? And some of the parties that are involved in there, like you mentioned, Ryder and NFI and some of the other ones, and obviously highlighting that this is a definite gap, right, in operations and the supply chain in general. But I'm curious, you mentioned that you didn't come from logistics or supply chain world, right? So when you first kind of learned about the yard, right, and what the potential gaps are there, I mean, what was your initial thought when you heard about this?
So I had seen, coming from venture and then being kind of a serial entrepreneur, business builder, and my last industry was healthcare, and I now have a fondness for big, heavy industries that are tech laggards, because that's where you can add the highest impact if you build a company that has true product development, true pricing enhancements, and then deeper tech and sustainability. You tend to find a way to build tech that is easier to deploy, easy to use, easy to manage, and provides 5-10 times the capabilities in the market over pre-existing dated point solutions. And so when I inspected the yard, it was very similar to healthcare in a sense that it was matrixed buying decision patterns. There's a lot of inertia in the way that they've run things historically. 50, 70-year-old processes. Their normalcy is hard to adjust and transform. But there are ways to do that with the right kind of tech, and primarily leaning in with uh, showing them the art of the
Mm.
possible, how we can make their jobs better, how we can reduce their error rates, how we can increase the throughput, and we can do it in an economical way, a cost benefit
Gotcha. Interesting.
model.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's a very interesting area because it's not necessarily doesn't necessarily get the most attention, right? Or doesn't necessarily get looked at the most because it's it's outside and it's just the trucks are coming in, trucks are going out, and but as you highlight it, right, there's a lot of kind of waste happening there and capacity being lost in a sense because of I imagine a lot of delays and things like that. So tell us a little bit about kind of a big part of what you're doing there is you mentioned creating the yard essentially of the future that's geared towards an autonomous type of world or autonomous type of yard. So tell us a little bit about why that is so important and how is that helping operations kind of get ready for the future of what this can look like.
Yeah, it's an excellent question. You know more than most the robotics and
Mm-hmm.
autonomy that's happened over the last 5 to 10 years in the warehouse. It's been significant, and what we're seeing now in bridging that autonomous over the road from the outside to the inside is that's a
It's
call out
coming
from
right
truck
into the yard right there. Yeah.
perfect is that the autonomous trucks and semi-autonomous warehouse environments are being tested nicely. There's a lot of pilots happening, and what's missing is that coordination between them. So autonomy shouldn't just sort of stop at the gate where it
Mm.
does, whether it's again human or autonomous. It still needs to know as soon as it arrives, and this is in a sense built into our yard operating system, where to go, when to go at a certain location, and what happens if conditions change.
Mm.
And without an AI driven smart yard platform, autonomy sort of collapses and goes back to manual handoffs and exceptions. And so, what you're seeing being piloted, a couple of good pilots in Texas, not too far from our headquarters in Austin. I view that those become operational reality in 3 to 5 years. And many of the large enterprises we're talking to today have that 3 to 5 year time horizon.
Mm.
Will this yard operating system be sort of robotic agnostic and allow that sort of precision autonomy to happen so operators can modernize the yard now, and if they don't, then you've seen this, and we are talking just before the pod too, that if you don't lean in on modernization transformation in the yard, you won't realize the full ROI of the warehouse, especially when there's autonomy and robotics and automation layer in the warehouse. It can be throttled back unknowingly by the yard with the paper, the Excel sheets, the old dispatch modalities. They're applying 3 to 4 hour buffers where they don't need
Mm.
to.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting to hear that. I think the yard is such an interesting kind of I guess use case for autonomous vehicles, right? Because it's even though it's outside, right? It's a little more controlled, right? And there's a little more kind of like a barrier there in a sense to be able to maneuver the vehicles and things of that nature, and then ultimately, when we get to these autonomous vehicles as well on the road, and then coming in and coming out as well, they'll need that guidance to happen, as you mentioned. And there's certainly some interesting maneuvers and unique kind of movements that need to happen in a yard type space. So very interesting there. And now you mentioned there the kind of the end of your last answer about working off of basically these papers, right, or these clipboards essentially, and that's kind of where the information is living a lot of times for the yard, and where they're trying to keep track of these things, and oftentimes creating much more delays and things of that nature. So tell us a little bit about what kind of data and what information is probably not getting captured in there and is missing for people, that is resulting in them essentially missing opportunities or causing these unnecessary delays that you're referring to?
Well, I'm glad you're asking the data question.
Sure. Yeah.
Many view that we're a potentially massive data ecosystem player
Mhm.
because we sit in between the two massive data lakes of transport and warehouse. And oftentimes the yard is this black hole where data goes to die. And what I mean by that too is like what kind of data would die in the yard. Many operators don't even realize how critical that data is. I was having dinner with one of the, let's just say, the top three parcel companies in the
Mhm.
world, and their view was, "Yeah, you got us. We're guilty. The yard has been a bit of an afterthought, a cost of doing business. We tried a couple YMSs, and I probed them on the
Yeah.
YMSs, and I said, yeah, those aren't going to work for you. You're not going to get a cost benefit out of that. The yard's too complex." And he said, yeah, if I just had data to show my team that the yard is now impacting my ROI of the
Mm.
warehouse, I could show them that because I spend millions in the warehouse. And if I can spend a little bit in the yard to amplify the ROI, then that's a boon for us. But I'm sure there's other data points you want to tell us about. And I went on with my
Mm.
pitch, which is, yeah, your operators don't even realize how much critical data they're missing. So they lack things like true arrival and departure timestamps. That matters on throughout because you have actual trailer dwell time that leads to fees, real-time asset location. They don't know where their assets are. As soon as you get into moderate to sophistication, that causes delays by as much as a day. Gate friction and congestion patterns cause further delays, dock to yard misalignment metrics. Now we have fraud, security, correlation that can happen at the yard. So to create fraud
Mm.
intervention at a meaningful level. And that's become a real issue, as well as damage detection data. We can now detect damage in cars as they enter and or in the yard, and then the correlation on their way out. So this is data they know they don't have. And then when you multiply that times 10 sites or 20 sites or 100 sites, you can start to see real cost efficiency, optimization, cost reduction, and greater throughput. And because that data isn't captured automatically, these decisions are being made now sort of in in averages or
Mm.
anecdotes or kind of lagging reports, which gives them a false sense of a feeling that they're on top of things enough. And and so when we can change that and the yard becomes more of a data driven where dock schedules get truly stabilized and labor can be staged like ahead of arrivals and inventory shows up when automation and the warehouse expects it to, then I think when they start to see those use cases where you have a full digitized yard with our
Mm.
system, uh, and it's cost effective. The ROIs happen within 12 months. I think you'll start to see the rise of adoption of smart yard 3.0 tech.
Yeah.
And we're seeing, right now our current estimates going back to that parcel executive showing that I think we can unlock 10%, 20% more value from the existing WMS investments in some yard
Mm.
scenarios because the yard again is throttling that flow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting, and very interesting to hear that. I guess they're aware of this gap, right? But they don't necessarily have the data to prove out the business case almost in a sense, right? And really kind of like highlight and put the spotlight on that. And I think it's very telling, right, that there's a lot of opportunity there, like for improvement that's going to impact their supply chain as a whole for any company, right, essentially, and be able to capture some of that information and turn those trucks faster, right, which is really kind of the goal of the yard, right? How do we get this truck in and out as fast as possible? And if we do that, right, we free up for the transportation side more capacity quicker, and then we also get our product into the warehouse faster as well, and ultimately get it out the door again faster. Additionally, too, to fulfill those orders. So very interesting there on the data side. Now, you also mentioned that you all are using computer vision as part of the solution as well. And obviously, I think in the warehouse world, we've seen kind of an explosion, a wave almost, I would say, of computer vision type applications over the last year, 2025, and I think we're going to see more in 2026 too as well, which I think is very interesting and a very interesting application use case for AI. So tell us a little bit about how you're utilizing computer vision and kind of how it works within the yard environment.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. That is also one of the genesis points of the founding of the
Mm,
business. Is they knew it would be hard to create the yard operating system with the sort of old clunky RFID GPS systems where you're relying on multiple humans to tag and trace and have sensors throughout the yard. And the thought was, can we replicate what's happening in the warehouse in the yard? Turns out it's it's almost exponentially more difficult
mm,
because you have inclement weather, you have challenges with the way the IDs are located. The you'll have mud on some of the
mm,
IDs, you'll have occlusions and so on, and so you have to build. You can use some public domain open source data, which is called perfect pictures. But in order to make a system that's cost effective, we had to spend millions in PhDs
mm,
to create effectively one of the largest, you could call it like an LLM
sure.
model of the art. And that accounts for, many of the edge case variables, but ultimately allows us to create an efficient set of models, ML models, that are quickly trainable in any yard.
Mm,
And practically the way to think about that from an operating perspective is, computer vision, if done right, is how we bring that physical yard into the software and the agentic platform. Is the most cost effective and efficient way to extract that data and pull it into a digitized software platform. And again, without asking people to scan tags or install sensors everywhere. And if that can work at a high detection, high accuracy rate, then that's the first big step
mm,
to that cost benefit solution. And again, that's why there's been a massive adoption problem in the yard. Is the second step is the computer vision.
mm,
75% of yards in the U.S. are not infrastructure ready, meaning you'd have to trench, which is 80 to 100,000, so to get power, lighting, and
mm,
network to a camera is cost prohibitive. So we've now worked with vendors. We've had taken on
mm,
investments and from vendors to build that CD in a box. So that's hardware, software, power, network,
okay.
light, all included in a single. So that's cellular, solar, and best of breed, but commodity cameras for this solution. And now you have cameras that can observe what's already kind of happening when a truck within seconds, less than two
Mm,
seconds. Our our cameras have captured everything you need to know about that truck trailer chassis, the IDs. Uh, as the truck's driving into the yard, it allows for that autonomous, full autonomous or semi-autonomous check in, check out. So it's capturing trucks arriving, trailers moving, asset staging, and that vision really converts those events into trusted, structured data
mm,
so that the check-ins and check-outs are valid, they're time-stamped, that we know the locations. And then that allows for mid enterprises to have a control, centralized command center that has a single pane of glass. They know where their assets are at all times on the yard in real time. And that data then feeds that workflow that allows you to have, unique workflows uh, that leads into our agentic platform. But the vision has to be the truth layer where for the yard, and then that enables the automation, and then enables the analytics, which then become actionable analytics, and eventually it leads to that autonomous predictive decision making within the yard.
yeah, and fascinating there because I think that as you're talking there, I'm thinking about the yards that I've been in and have worked in, and I think that that's one thing that's certainly a challenge, I think, is the data capture itself, right? And it sounds like you're utilizing the computer vision to essentially be that vehicle to capture a majority of the data of what's happening in those movements, and as you said, the IDs from the trucks and things like that. And I think, you mentioned something really critical there is the actuality of the time in, time out, right? And capturing that, because that becomes pretty important for a lot of agreements with transportation companies. And do you know pay a fee or penalty because they took too long, or things of that nature. So having that kind of real time capture versus relying on somebody to write it down correctly, there can be some potential mistakes there. So I'm curious, as I'm thinking through what this looks like in process, and how things move through the yard with your solution in place. What is the experience like for the truck driver? Like, do they need to do anything differently, or is it they come to the gate, computer vision captures their information and opens the gate for them, or what? How does that kind of work? That experience for the driver themselves.
Yes, the we call that the pre-planning
Mm-hmm.
is really important for us uh, to have that autonomous yard of the future. We had to build in an integration framework that is probably one of the most efficient. I haven't seen a better integration framework and marketplace approach that we have that make integrations one third the cost and three times more efficient. So that's part one is, can we integrate with the TMSs? And then that gives us a lot of that pre-planning information. And as the truck driver arrives, if in some gates you need to still have guards because they have a multi-use guard
Sure.
station. In others, we can have a full autonomous gate where the driver, as soon as they arrive in that geofencing sector, it'll activate them with a link. The link that then allows them to plug in their phone number, and then it sends them another link, and then they take a picture of the QR code if that's needed, and that activates a web-based application that is. And again, we've designed this with AI agentic, so it's conversational.
Okay.
So they hit a conversation. I don't know if you've used AI conversation yet, but you can hit the voice. You can use a little bit of a form based function, but we also highlight the voice box. You hit that, and it'll ask you, "What are you here for? What's your name?" Take a based on that and the IDs that we just captured. Take a picture of your bill of lading. Take a picture of your license. Now everything's been validated. If it's a live drop, it'll tell you exactly which dock to head to. When you arrive there, you can stay uh, uh, in the truck itself and have it, if it's integrated with the scheduling, have it scheduled on time, ready to be unloaded, and then in some cases they'd like the driver to take a picture of their zone where they are and the back of the truck, and so we have that integrated. So you now have, and then as we have a couple cameras or mobile cameras throughout the yard, we now have visual representation, kind of a living organism of live data that's happening all the time. So we're constantly validating, is this the right driver, right load, right dock, scheduling. And then that allows for, less than 20-second validation of checkout as well. So those are there's multiple use cases based on the variable nature of the yards. But that is probably the most streamlined view.
Got it. Okay.
So customer experience, one of the reasons 3PLs are excited is we're able to improve the driver customer experience with that use case I just outlined.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, it sounds a lot more streamlined than some of the process flows I've seen around the yard, or maybe lack of process flow in some instances, definitely. So very interesting there. And I'm curious, because, everybody, if you have a warehouse, you essentially have a yard of some shape or size, right? And the volume of trucks that are moving through there, and trailers that are coming in and out can vary greatly depending on your operation and what you're doing. So so for terminal, who who is kind of the right fit to start looking at this as a solution for their yard? Like, what is there a specific size, specific type of throughput that makes sense for it, or is it good for everyone? Tell us a little bit about like who is a good fit right now for terminal.
Yeah, well, what we found initially when I help start businesses, I have a heavy analysis of what they call in the startup speak
Sure.
ICP, ideal customer profile. And initially, I thought, well, mid market to enterprise have the most sophisticated, challenged uh, yards that are causing bottlenecks and ROI issues with their warehouse. So that was our initial focus. But we quickly found that many of those shippers, so 3PLs and shippers are our main
Hmm.
focus areas, typically inland, but we're now looking at ports for various use cases. And what we found was that even the 3PLs have really small yards and want to have some
Mm.
digitization. And so we've created a package that does not need computer vision,
Mm.
which can cost a little bit more. It can be just the digital platform, AI driven platform, which they use on their phone or tablet or their laptop. So we can provide a solution from the smallest yards up to, I think the sweet spot begins at 5 yard
Mm.
plus across shippers and uh, and 3PLs. And certainly we shine at the enterprise level because we were born inside the belly, I guess,
Yeah.
of major enterprises. And so we're enterprise grade. We're highly modular, configurable, scalable. We have world class delivery teams and so on.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Definitely. And it sounds like you can start with a smaller scale, right? As you mentioned, without the computer vision, and then I guess as you continue to expand, if that throughput grows and you move to a larger facility, get a bigger yard, et cetera, you can start to layer on some of those additional features and functionality, which I think is a really great way to approach it and have some of that flexibility too. I think that makes a lot of sense. So now we talked a little bit about kind of what's missing in the yard and some of the gaps there, and how you're leveraging technology to address some of those gaps. But if you look into your crystal ball here, and we look a couple years into the future, I mean, what do you see, and what's your vision for what the future of the yard looks like?
Uh, Excellent. I was in the venture business where I started. They trained you to be a futurist,
Sure.
an analyst. So as much as I'm working on the here and now, I'm always thinking how do we create the most dominant, best product in the industry 3 to 5 years
Mm.
out. And so our view, which is one of the reasons I'm here, is there is a beautiful view of the future in this space, and we're co-opting the term lights out. So we call it the lights out yard,
Mm.
even though that's probably a misnomer because it's going to need some
Yeah.
lights in the 24/7. But the idea is that, yeah, if we do our job right, and this is what I think we're successful in in having enterprises sign up for this 3 to 5 year vision, apply some of their budget today to begin that modernization
Mm.
path. But the idea that we're selling is a self-managed 24/7 logistics hub where the gates are fully automated from command center. Assets are visible in real time all the time. Yard moves with this orchestration by AI,
Mhm.
so agentic workflows, which is a really complex thing to get right, but we've cracked the code there. And then you have these autonomous spotter trucks that locate, hitch, and dock the trailers with the yard operating system. They should be able to do it with centimeter level
Mm.
precision, but they'll need that yard operating system. And then you're using humans, but only to kind of manage exceptions and outcomes, not with like the radios and clipboards stuff they're doing today. And so that's all great when we talk about the future, but you also have to express what we think the outcomes will be
Mm.
in that now and then as you arc into the future. But we're already seeing gates that I worked on a deal not so long ago where it was 17-minute check-in. So rather quickly, you're up to an hour and 47
Yeah.
minutes for a truck that's backed up to get from gate to dock. We were able to redesign all of that through workflows to 8 minutes. And that
Nice.
included a 34-second check-in.
Mm.
And that's a game changer type of
Yeah.
ROI and analysis. And you do see that pockets of those. But the idea is that we can bring gate check-ins from anywhere from 2 to 15 minutes down to less than 30 seconds. Our average is 34 seconds. You have trailer dwell times down by 30%, asset search times down by 90%, asset utilization improved by 25. So we just go through a list of the improvements that we can drive towards, and then we have deadlines to hit those. And then further out, it even gets better. So the future looks bright for the lights out yard, because we're starting from such a baseline of manual intensity that I think, and when we do apply the first phases of the lights out yard, and we get through that change management, they are happier. Their accuracy is through the roof. Their volume KPIs, those that the people that are running that are much better. And we've just eliminated a lot of workflows that were not fun for them, so their job's better.
Yeah, and I will say the yard. I know from experience, it's not fun to go out there in the snow and when it's raining and all those things to capture some of that data manually, right, and do some of that stuff. So definitely it's great to hear that, and very fascinating to get a look into kind of what the future and the opportunities that just lie within that yard are there. So if you thinking that that space outside your dock doors is just some asphalt or some gravel out there, there's much more to it, and there's much more to be able to address there and capture and make improvements for your operation, your supply chain overall. So very fascinating and interesting to speak with you today, Darren, and really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing with us about all these opportunities in the yard and some of the gaps there, and how Terminal Industries is helping to address that now and into the future as well. If people are interested in improving their yard and making things better and learning out more information about Terminal Industries, what's the best way to do that?
You can hit our website, terminal-industries.com, and you'll have all the information there. I was just going to thank you, Kevin, for having us, for letting us share our story, and thank you for you had wonderful insights and feedback along the way. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to get you on, and we'll definitely share all the information about Terminal Industries, so you can find it in the show notes here, as well as at thenewwarehouse.com. So Darren, thank you once again for your time on the show today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video here on our YouTube channel, The New Warehouse Podcast, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked what you saw, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and if you like this video in particular, make sure you like it as well. And if you want to get this great t-shirt that you see in the video behind me, Warehouses Are Sexy, head to warehousesaresexy.com and get your own.